Thank you so much, Mrs. Dell'Omo, for sharing your leadership takeaway with us and relating it not only to your professional life, but your personal life as well. A growth mindset and curiosity are so critical for effective leadership, and I really appreciate how you've shared how it's helped in your life and your leadership. In your takeaway, you talked about being an active listener and that to better learn, we need to actively listen, process information, practice those things that we've learned. And one of the important aspects to growing as a leader is reflecting. And so I would love to know from you, what are some of the ways that you reflect to best incorporate the learning that you've done?
Well, thank you, Laura. That's a great question. And please call me Polly. And so taking time to reflect, I think first and foremost is to turn off all the electronics and eliminate all your distractions when you want to really think about something and focus on your learning and what you need to learn. I'm a big note taker. I write things down. That helps me to learn. And so I'll sit down and I'll review my notes in a quiet place. I'll think about them. I'll go through and maybe make a list of follow-up questions and maybe people that I need to follow up with. And then sometimes I don't just react and send out those emails right away. I maybe sleep on it. And sometimes sleeping on it helps you to focus better the next day and then follow up on all the questions that you need to have answered.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. One of the other questions that I had for you regarding, that growth mindset and continuing to learn and pushing yourself to, develop new skills and new abilities. In college is the perfect opportunity for students to learn a wide range of things. And sometimes students take classes that aren't necessarily related to their major. And they're thinking, why am I learning, this certain aspect, whether it be math related or social science related. But it could be useful to their future, and they might not even know it. So what is something random or a story that you can tell us about something that you've learned that you didn't necessarily think would be important to know, but has actually helped you in your life?
Okay, so obviously my math classes that I took since 6th grade was when I can remember just falling in love with math. So all of that through my high school and college career was important. I think in high school, probably a sociology course I took really opened me up to learning about culture and how other people live. Another important course that I took was Spanish. We had this fantastic Spanish teacher in high school, and if you took her class and you stuck with it, you got to travel to Spain with her as a learning experience, which really gave me the travel bug. And then probably about 40 years later, I had an opportunity to travel to Nicaragua with a nursing professor. The first time I went, it was as an observer. And as I sat there in this culture that's just amazing, I started to realize some of my high school Spanish was coming back to me. And he goes on these trips frequently. He takes undergraduate nursing students as part of their community health course. They do work in the barrios and out in the country in Nicaragua, where the poverty level is about 80% of the people live under the poverty level. So it's extreme poverty, and there's, of course, a lot of health issues that go along with that. And so I went back and found a Spanish tutor, and I improved my Spanish. And then I had the opportunity to travel with him on a few more occasions to help him with the nursing students who did not speak Spanish. And so I helped them translate and talk to the local people as they ran their clinics, and help the students just ask the questions of health issues and things like that of the local people. So it was just an opportunity that who knew when I took Spanish back in high school that it was going to weave into something so significant and very impactful on my life.
Absolutely. And it just shows how you utilized it to be able to serve others
Right.
as a leader and really make an impact upon a community and make some connections as well.
Right. And I think as a follow-up to that, Laura, is since you mentioned math, and I happen I happen to work with students who don't necessarily love math as much as I do. I usually don't have math majors in my classes. I have students of many different majors, and many times they wonder, why do I have to study math? And invariably, we'll be working on something like the quadratic formula, and someone will say, when am I ever going to use this again? And my response is possibly never. You may never use that again in your life, but that's not really the point of taking a math course. I think it's more about learning how to organize your thoughts, learning how to problem solve, being creative, being able to analyze what prior knowledge do I have, and then what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? And then learning how to persevere, because we all know that sometimes those math problems can, if we just don't keep working and working, that we can't solve them. So I really believe that math in and of itself does translate into future success across the board in every other kind of endeavor and major that you'll take.
And that's a great point. You may be there to learn math, but at the same time, you're also learning many transferable skills that you're going to be able to utilize. And you mentioned perseverance, and that's a big one when it comes to leadership, sticking with it and, dealing with tough times and tough math equations.
Right. And I think, and also the fact that it teaches you how to organize your thoughts, which translates into research and any other field that you might want to work in.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts about being open-minded to learning, having that growth instead of fixed mindset. Are there any parting words of advice that you want to share with those who are watching today?
Oh, I think for me, I've always been a lifelong learner because I'm inquisitive and I want to learn, even if it's things, like I said, that I may not be relevant at this particular point in time. They might become relative at some future point. So I embrace new learning. I think I mentioned that I take notes. I'll be in a meeting and I'll be taking notes, and maybe I'll never use those notes again, but they help me to stay focused on what's being discussed and to process it and be able to respond to it. It also helps me to figure out what I don't know and where I need to ask questions. So I think we need to view just every challenge that we encounter as a learning experience, be able to reflect on them, and most importantly, have fun while you're doing it.
Fun is a good thing. Fun is key,
Yes.
for sure. Thank you so much once again for sharing your leadership lesson with us and with the rider community.
Oh, thank you, Laura, for this important project. This is amazing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Okay.